We had met our architect and the builder. That's the only people we knew when we moved down here. We needed something else, and we stopped at the visitor center when it was on the outskirts of Durham and read about Duke having this program. And so we called and we signed up for classes the first January. It was January 2001. So that's how we got to DILR. You know, or most of the classes were at the bishop's house. Finding instructors as part of the curriculum committee was not the easiest. I think I enjoyed the naval battles of World War II, the Apollo lunar program. I always enjoyed military history and naval history, and I worked on the Apollo program, and I loved the Apollo program, so that was fun.
OLLI at Duke, DILR, wouldn't be here today without the volunteers. Would not be. I mean, they're key. This guy named Bill Wright, oh, what a volunteer he was. And actually, his class was the first one I ever took at DILR. He was talking Tar Heel geography. And he talked about the Tar Heel state. And it was just incredible. He was a consummate volunteer. So you can understand why they named the award after him. He was spectacular, but that really got us hooked. I took a class on South Africa. Ian Goddard is a native of South Africa. He taught the class, and somebody said, "Why don't you have a trip?" He organized it, and a bunch of Dukies went, and my son. What an experience. That was just a great trip. Ian did a wonderful job. But that is kind of indicative of what all people who are involved, and they say they'll do something to step up to the plate, and they do it.
I knew about DILR, and then when I went over there and got the brochure, and I met Tony Barragona at the time, who was an OLLI member, who had worked with me at Kennedy Airport when I was up in New York City. So I went to see Sarah, and she said, "Tell me about what you think you might like to teach, if you want to teach." Well, I had never taught. I started telling Sarah some of the anecdotes and experiences I had at the airport. I would like to go around the room, tell me your name, and I want you to tell me if you remember the first flight you took. More than 90% of the class remember, and the stories came out from people, and you talked about bringing a smile to your face. Wonderful story. You know, lifelong learning and people living so much longer and being actively involved is you know, it's wonderful that you can do this.
All of the directors that I worked under were very organized, but it was this core camaraderie group of volunteers that really made the difference in the smoothness of the way that OLLI ran and DILR ran. I do miss the retreats, and what I miss most is just that, again, there were sometimes new people, but a lot of times we had a lot of membership that just continued to come, and they knew what we needed to have done, and they volunteered to have it done. Again, it's just DILR and OLLI are like a big family. The evolution of OLLI, it was inevitable that we would be much more tech-oriented and computer-oriented and email-oriented. And of course, that cut down on the availability of hours for people that were volunteering to do things. So in many ways, it was much more efficient. But then again, we missed some of that inclusive activity that people really look forward to.
2 words bring a smile to my face. Wendell Musser. As I had said earlier, Wendell was the spark that got me into OLLI. Wendell's the spark that kept OLLI vibrant. Wendell Musser was OLLI. I can't imagine a semester without being in OLLI.
When Wendell Musser was leading us, I got very involved working with him to some extent one-on-one about strategic planning. And I'm hoping OLLI will continue to be as important in my life as it has been, because it has certainly made a difference in my life.
And so one of the things that we decided to do in lieu of just creating another 3-year strategic plan is to look out 10 years and try to decide how our shorter term, if I can call it that, strategic plans fit into a longer sort of timeline. And we formed what was called a visioning task force that I led. And the visioning task force was to project where would OLLI be 10 years down the road in terms of membership, in terms of the number of courses and so forth. And we decided that we would form an executive committee of the board, which consisted of the president, the past president, the vice president, who was the incoming president, the director, of course, and then the secretary, because the secretary really kept track of sort of all the details that were going on. And so,
I especially enjoyed being leading the membership committee. That was something that I particularly enjoyed doing. One of the things I enjoyed the most, of course, about being an OLLI leader was being able to meet people and identify their interests and goals and help them help the organization. Well, I would like to see OLLI at Duke have their own building, and if there was ever fundraising toward that goal, I would certainly like to help with that.
I guess it was George Nelson called me up and said, we're looking for a chair for the curriculum committee. Oh, I think my favorite role was being chair of the curriculum committee. Gary Kreitz loved doing the catalog, and so he did the catalog. He was willing to talk about redesign, and he was on the committee, but about that time he left his position. So the committee was in limbo, and he appointed me to take over. Actually, the catalog redesign has gone way beyond what I first saw was possible. It's like a magazine now. It's certainly saved OLLI a lot of money also.
Yes.
I was quite honored last year to be presented with a Wright Award.
I had met somebody who had taken the Stay Put or Move On class, and I had begun to do some research on continuing care retirement communities because my parents lived in one in Des Moines, Iowa. The thing I enjoy most about being an OLLI student has been the variety of classes, and then I would say the people that I've met along the way. There are just lots of good people in OLLI, and these are people who have come from all over. It's rare that you find somebody who's a native North Carolinian, but most of us have come from other places and so bring so many different experiences to the table. When I think of OLLI and think of moments that bring smiles to my face, I think of my Spanish conversation group. Wonderful exchange, and it was just a good time. It just was one of those things that I could look forward to every month.
So what do I love about being a student at OLLI? It's just so much fun. I love learning. I've got enormously wide interests. I'd always known there were a lot of people volunteering for OLLI. I think I came to have just absolutely extraordinary respect, and I'm completely in awe of all of the people who work so hard for OLLI volunteering.
Chris McLeod had recently come in as director, And OLLI had a history of being developed and run by its members. And that was as meaningful a transition, I assume, as OLLI has ever gone through. The reality is OLLI is a program of Duke with a director who's in the chain of command within Duke, and yet because they didn't really care very much about OLLI, you didn't get a lot coming from Duke. An incredibly wonderful program was developed by the members. Now, whether it should have happened or shouldn't have happened, doesn't matter, it happened. Yeah, so the community engagement started with Virginia and Beth and myself and others, but we felt that having better engagement between OLLI members and the community would be a win-win. It would be good for the community and good for our members.
In April of 2020, Chris was on it like that, as far as getting OLLI back into the swing of doing things online. And I had the good fortune of being right there with her. But Chris was the one who was really primed and ready to go. And I have no idea where she just had this leadership that we are going to transition and we're going to get online.
I didn't become aware of OLLI at Duke until 2016. Sunday morning, I'm reading the New York Times, and there's an article about lifelong learning institutes that are across the country that had been funded by the Bernard Osher Foundation. I was able to sign up for 4 classes, and one of those 4 classes was a class taught by a former administrator with UNC, Linda Carl. Wow. It was a course on African American and African art. It was amazing. I was a fan of OLLI for life. Just after COVID had hit, I became president. During my time on OLLI's Board of Advisors, one of my top priorities has been increasing the number of people of color who are OLLI members and instructors. Since her arrival in 2018, Chris McLeod and I, along with Abdul Waheed, have worked to expand our course offerings that are taught by African American instructors, as well as courses that focus on the history of the African American community here in Durham.
I really have liked the perspective that you get when you serve on a board. If you're just taking courses, you see OLLI means one thing. You know, if you're serving on the community engagement committee, it's another. To use a trite example, it's sort of like the elephant, you know, feeling the trunk, and the elephant looks one way, and the ear it looks another, and the leg it looks another. But on the board, you get the whole thing. You get the whole elephant.
In some ways, I think COVID did have a silver lining, because I think it did create the ability to deliver course material in a way that I'm not sure how many more years it might have taken if we had not had that as the strong impetus to do it. There's a comfort in doing things the same way. People liked coming to the classes. People liked the social aspect of it. But it also limited what we could do. And I still believe that OLLI is better served by a multifaceted approach to delivering its material than the strictly classroom-based learning that we had been using up to that point.
And it just gives me chills sometimes to think of how fortunate we are to live in the Triangle and have an OLLI that fosters this kind of community.